everyone, and welcome to Contact Lost, the Polish podcast in English about the Polish Warhammer 40k competitive scene, but not only. With me today, I have two amazing guests, Joker.
Hello, everyone.
And a guy who traveled over 200 kilometers to visit us last weekend to play a tournament. Please welcome Asarnil.
Hi, guys.
Right, thanks for being here. Awesome to have you. Listen, guys, before we move on to the main topic of today's episode, there are a couple of announcements that I would like to make, and I think you might find them interesting. So listen closely. First of all, I wanted to let you know that since we are located in Tree City in north of Poland, so the Tree City League has undergone a reset, which means that it's going to start over again with the new rules for the 9th edition, missions from the GT pack, and so on and so on. Since I am the admin for that, so I created new groups for the players. You can still sign up for it. The rules are on our forum, 3CD40K, so head on to that and check it out. Other than that, you probably would like to know what tournaments are going to take place in the newest month, so definitely check out Dragon Store on Facebook, which is our local, let's call it, friendly gaming store, where we are going to have 3 tournaments on 8th of September. There's going to be a 500 points one-day tournament. On 19th September, on Saturday, there's going to be an overnight tournament, so something that we haven't done before. 2,000 points night gaming. We shall see how it goes. Radek, the owner of Dragon, told me that he has, stockpiled energy drinks for us, so it should be fine. And on the 27th of September, on Sunday, again, a tournament with big points, probably 1,500 up to 2,000, we shall see. So 3 tournaments in Dragon that are going to be happening really soon. And then I think you might also be interested in the information about some tournaments that are going to take place in Poland. One of them between the 5th and 6th September, that's going to be the after STC 2,000 point singles tournament, 2-day event organized by Kershur. So the same guy who brought us the tournament that we talked about during the first episode of the podcast. So a guy who has the know-how, who knows how to pull off an amazing event. So if you want more information about that, please head on to warhammer40k.pl or wh40k.pl, which is the all Polish forum for Warhammer 40k competitive scene. Check it out. Tournament section, you should find it without a problem. The second one that needs to be mentioned is the 21st and 22nd of November in Katowice. That will be the Polish Couples Championships. So again, 2,000 points couples tournament in Katowice. Worth checking out. I think we're still waiting for the details on, how, what, when, etc., etc. But yeah, definitely head on to wh40k.pl to check out the details when they are there. Okay, right. I think those were all the announcements. So now we can move on to the nitty-gritty of our today's episode. So yeah, I brought in Asarnil because, as I said, he came all the way from Toruń with his partner in crime, Bania, and they came to Gdynia last weekend to play in a 1,000 points tournament that took place in Dragon Store. Asarnil, I'll hand over the mic to you. What makes 2 guys travel over 200 kilometers, I think, to play a 1K tournament in a different city? What happened there?
Well, I would blame COVID-19 mostly.
Right.
We are so game hungry for a couple of months now, especially with a new edition coming and a lot of ideas on how to build the armies and new rosters coming up every day almost between us. And we played some games in Toruń in our local store. But that is simply not enough. We want, some competitive situations, some tournaments to compete in. And since Free City is our definitely location of choice if it comes to the tournaments, not only it is relatively close to Toruń, but also you guys are so friendly and you welcome us always. So it's always a pleasure for us to go to you guys and to play some tournaments. So that was mainly the reason. And to be honest, 200 kilometers for us, it's not that
Big of a deal, yeah.
big of a deal. Yeah, we tend to travel all the country to some tournaments. Maybe not one-day events. We definitely want to participate in longer events if it's a little bit far away from Toruń, but again, Gdańsk or Łódź or anything in the perimeter of 200 kilometers, it's definitely fine for us to travel.
And it's considered something close. I
Yes.
understand. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you go along the highway, then it's not that bad, is it?
And no, not at all. I think that's 2 hours, maybe even less if we're in a hurry.
Awesome. So yeah, it was fantastic to have you, and I also observed that you are like you and Bania at Polish tournaments. You guys are a staple, so pretty much always there, which is great.
Wow, thank you.
But still, to all the people who might not know you or might not, recognize the nickname, who are you? What army do you play? Why this army? And maybe we can then segue somehow to that tournament. So what did you bring to Dragon?
Sure. Asarnil is my nickname, and this is something that I brought with me from Warhammer Fantasy Battle. That was my first miniature wargaming system that I played for quite a while. And there in the Dogs of War army, there was an Asarnil, the Dragon Lord character that I really loved. And that's why I nickname myself that. So I started with Warhammer Fantasy Battle, I think around 16 years ago, so quite a long time ago. And I had some periods when I didn't play for a couple of reasons, sometimes personal, sometimes I just had a little bit of enough and a little bit bored sometime, but we played with Bania almost from the very beginning with some couple of friends in Toruń here locally. We started to go to tournaments more frequently a couple of years ago. And with starting of 8th edition of Warhammer 40k, we came back after some time of a break. And since then, this is actually our longest period of playing Warhammer without any pause at all. And I think that's mainly because 8th edition, we can say a lot of things about it, but I think that was one of the greatest editions in 40k since a long time, and hopefully 9th edition will continue that trend. And I think that the tournament scene is quite stable right now and quite balanced, and that definitely supports playing competitively as of late.
All right. So which army did you pick as the one that you believe is a competitive one? Which army do you feel comfortable with?
Well, my army of choice was not based on its competitiveness, rather on me liking the ambience of it and really the miniatures, and that's obviously Chaos. I started with Demons quite a long time ago, when this army was really, really bad. So definitely competitiveness was not my reason for choosing it. And since then, I stick to Chaos, not only Demons, but also Chaos Space Marines and Death Guard and Thousand Suns, almost everything.
All flavors.
Sorry?
All flavors.
All flavors, definitely. I didn't play Renegade Knights that much. I think I played it only on one tournament because I don't really like big models that much. But yeah, chaos is definitely my thing.
Awesome. Okay, so you, together with Bania, you came to the tournament in Gdynia sporting the lists for 1,000 points.
Mhm.
You both play Chaos. Is that a coincidence, or do you, I don't know, do you two share armies or something like that?
Well, um, the problem that we have is that if we talk about the lists together, even if it's the same, if it's the different armies, we tend to gravitate towards similar ideas because we talk a lot about them, and we actually what we wanted to do is to bring 2 times demons without actually Chaos Space Marines, thinking that for 1,000 points in Chaos Space Marines, it's quite challenging to get a good roster, I think. It's not impossible, but for demons, it's a little bit easier due to the fact that the troops are definitely easier to pick, and it's easier to fill the patrol or the battalion. But well, Bania is he's the one that tries quite a lot of armies. Lately, he's been sticking around with Chaos due to the fact that he likes the models as well and the climate of it. After all, but he played quite a lot. He played some Space Marines in the past. He played some orcs, really almost everything. But now Chaos, I think it's definitely our favorite, and I'm kind of spreading the Chaos joy into our little group, and he definitely picked it up. So yeah, that's Chaos, and well, since we want really to test the meta right now, and maybe 1,000 points is not really a good starting point to test how the meta will shape. But I thought that if Bania will bring demons and I will bring the demons, we will have only one conclusion if the demons are bad or good. And so I thought that maybe I'll try to build a Chaos Space Marines list after all, and then we'll know that if demons and Chaos Space Marines are good or bad. So that was my thinking, choosing the Chaos Space Marines over demons.
All right. So, to our listeners, you might be wondering why we talk about Bania and Asarnil so much. Truth be told, and I don't know if we should be proud of that or ashamed of that, but the two the two guests from Torun that came, they absolutely rocked the tournament, and Bania finished in the first place. Asarnil finished second. And then we had yours truly, so Joker in the third place with Necrons, and then I took the fourth place with my Grey Knights. So I felt that it was mostly fitting to invite either Bania or Asarnil to the podcast. Bania couldn't make it. We have Asarnil. I think Asarnil can speak for both of the players. So yeah, I think we should dive into the lists, perhaps,
Mhm.
if that is okay. So as I said, Banya is your partner in crime. You already made it clear that you guys discuss lists a lot. So you definitely must have known what he's taking. So can you tell us all what it was, what the structure of the list was, what the reasoning behind those units were, perhaps what secondaries Banya chose? Yeah, tell us everything.
Right. So the list is actually, I think, three different parts of this list are important. First one is a Lord of Change, a unkillable monster that is at the center of battlefield and really really hard to kill. On the other hand, really with a big attention from the opponent because he's really big, he's really scary, he looks like he can do a lot of damage, etc., which is not really the case, but
Yeah,
we can
looks
talk about
like nicely said.
it. Yeah, exactly. So that was the first piece of the puzzle for Bania's list. Second one was 2 units of 20 Bloodletters. with the demonic icon upgraded to Banner of Blood and the Instrument of Chaos, obviously. So this was really a hitting force that will drop down on second or third turn to really not only push back the opponent, try to get as many objectives as possible, but also maybe kill a thing or two. That was the second piece, and the third one is basically the rest. And we have there Karanak as a second choice of HQ. We have some Nurglings there, 2 units of 3. We also have 2 units of Brimstones and 2 single Beasts of Nurgle. So a lot of really cheap units, and their main objective is to just capture objectives to push back the opponent from the objectives. And I think this list really works well, especially against someone who doesn't know that Lord of Change is not really a threat here. The big threat is the Bloodletters and the units that are actually taking the objectives, primary and secondary. On the other hand, the Lord of Change is, I think, one of the best choices in Demons right now, because not only he's a really big gun magnet for the opponent, which is really, really hard to kill, because he not only has -1 damage on anything that hits him, he has 3+ invulnerable save, but also he can have feel no pain on 6s and regaining some wounds. So really, really hard to kill. But what he also brings is the fact that you have a really easy secondary to make, which is the what's it called? Psychic Ritual.
Psychic Ritual.
Yeah, exactly. So you just park this guy at the very center of the battlefield, and he just sits there and gaining you 15 points for this secondary. And while the opponent is trying to kill him, on the other side, all the rest of the army is just killing the opponent and taking care of all the other objectives. So it really synergizes very well the list, and I think that's the big shift, I think, in 9th edition, really, of our thinking about the rosters. We really should think about the rosters in terms of the secondaries that they can make, a part of primaries, of course, but the secondaries, I think that's the key part of really creating the list, because if we create a list that is really based on what we know from 8th edition, we don't really take in consideration things like, besides banners and maybe taking quarters, what else it's easy to do. And a lot of lists, I think, struggle with the third secondary, and that will be something that, in my opinion, will differentiate the good list from a mediocre one.
Right. So I spoke to Bania after the tournament, and I asked him, like, what was the purpose of some of the things in the list and what secondaries he picked. So he told me that he usually went with banners, and I think that's thanks to like brimstones, because, correct me if I'm wrong, brimstones are infantry, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
They are.
Right. So that's something that he wanted to do, and yeah, the bloodletters are just something that, you know, if you don't prepare right, I guess that will wipe you off the table. Such an amount of AP3 damage, charging on 3 dice and so on. I think this can shift pretty much everything, especially in the list with 1,000 points. So it sounds like this list has almost everything. But I mean, do you know if this list fares well if it doesn't start?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think it does, because really what you see on the battlefield is Lord of Change, again, quite unkillable. And then some really trashy, not worth looking at units, like 3 Nurglings here, a couple of Brimstones there, and a single Beast of Nurgle. I think Well, it really depends who you play against, because if you play against somebody that knows this list and knows how it works, the first thing that you should do is to ignore the Lord of Change and really just make him just sit there. You know that you'll lose 15 points on secondary, but kill everything else. Prepare for the Bloodletters, and it should be the right tactic. And unfortunately for Bania's opponents, nobody thought of that, and everybody focused really on Lord of Change, and that's a kind of one-trick pony strategy, because if everybody will know about this particular strategy, then probably it will not work. On the other hand, if you let the Lord of Change fly around and kill your stuff, that will definitely not make your life easier. So it's a tough choice for the opponent, and I would say that this roster is quite immune to not going first, especially that you have two big units of Bloodletters that will just drop down, so you don't have to worry about them, and just some trashy units there.
Yeah, and also it seems like 40 Bloodletters, 19 Brimstones. It seems for that amount of points, it's a bit hoardy, and I don't think many players are ready for that. I mean, unless you play, I don't know, Necrons that spam with shooting. Other armies usually don't have that amount of fire output or that amount of firepower. So really seems well thought through.
Especially for 1,000 points, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Do you know anything about the Bania's opponents, like who he played or what the matchups were?
I know that he played Imperial Knights. That's
right
for sure.
And he won all three games, right? That gave him the first place, right? So even though I don't know I know that he played Knights, but I don't know what the army composition was. It couldn't have been anything mind-blowing with 1,000 points, I guess. So
I remember that there was a Crusader Knight and 3 Helverines, and that was pretty much it.
Okay, so I think I can imagine what the game looked like. Just Bania swarming the table, the knight trying desperately to win some ground. But I also know he played Blood Angels, I think, and
I think so.
He might have played the same Blood Angels that I've played.
He did play the same Blood Angels that you've played.
Right. So I have some bad memories from that game, but I'll probably get to that when I talk about my experience. But again, from what Bania told me, with just that huge amount of units on the table, an army that sported a Land Raider, 5 Sanguinary Guards, 2 units of 5 Terminators, it just couldn't fare well against such an overwhelming power.
I think what we have to mention as well, that the table sizes were quite small, and it was, I think, 48 by 30 inches.
36.
36, right. So having this hardy army will definitely help you get some ground there. So I think that won Banias some ground there as well.
Cool. So now, if you think about Bania's list outside of that tournament, do you think that it could serve as a foundation for a 2000 list, that the typical standard game that we play? Do you think that he would take the same but more? Or would he try to mix it up with something else as well?
Well, I know he will.
All right, so tell us all about it.
Well, we are discussing what's next. How can we improve this army list to get to 2000? And we have a lot of ideas. And what's interesting is that even though we are thinking about them quite separately, when we try to align and talk about the list, we basically come up with pretty much the same list with some few changes here and there. Myself, I, for example, don't like really that a lot of change here, but that's mainly because I don't like really big models. So I tend to gravitate towards, for example, Flamers of Change instead of the Lord of Change, but the rest of the list is basically pretty much the same. We have the Bloodletters as a striking force, quite a lot of trashy units, including some Nurglings, some Beasts, but also Furies. I think that will be quite a comeback that we'll see for Chaos. I really like this unit, and I think it has its niche in the Chaos Demons army. And basically, the main strategy is to have a lot of units that will swarm the battlefield, and especially the objectives, because we have to always remember that, especially in 9th edition, it's not about killing stuff. It's about being on objectives and staying there.
Yeah, that's something that I keep on hearing on, like from every direction, be it from our local players or from other podcasts as well. So I guess it must be true. So interesting about Furies. I'm keen to see whether they actually make a comeback or not. But I think we can move on to your list now. So the list that took second place last weekend. You said that you didn't want to take demons, just not to overlap with what Bania was testing. So yeah, tell us what allowed you to take second place.
All right, so I chose Chaos Space Marines, and as my favorite legion is Alpha Legion, that was an obvious choice, especially that Alpha is, I think, one of the strongest legions right now for Chaos Space Marines. So I took a patrol with a single sorcerer there on foot, and a Chaos Lord with Jump Pack and with Power Fist for HQs. A very poor Chaos Space Marine troops without any equipment at all, so just to fill in the troop slot. And then I took 2 units of Khorne Berserkers, 5 of each, with obviously Power Fist in every one of them. And then 2 single Chaos Spawns, 2 Rhinos for the Berserkers, and last but not least, 3 Obliterators, so the powerhouse of Chaos Space Marine units. And the main, well, to be honest, I don't really like this list that much because I think it's very much an 8th edition list. Its main goal is to kill everything in sight with Obliterators that will use not only prescience to have +1 hit, but also they will have +1 to wound with the Veterans of Long War stratagem, and with double shooting from Cacophony. Basically, what it does is just kills almost everything in game in its sight, and then tries to survive for the next round. And it did do well for me, but I think that I will probably try to build a list that is more about, again, primaries and secondaries rather than just killing stuff. I think that will be a right direction.
So when you go about list building now in 9th, you said that you've thought about many concepts. I read Gloria Victi, so the all Polish Warhammer 40k competitive forum, and I sometimes venture into the chaos section. So I do see some ideas from you, like I know you've been testing mutilators, I think. And then I overheard your discussions, I think, with Elf from Gdynia, perhaps about using like Hell Drakes. I think it was, I don't know if you were thinking about this, but I know he was. Would you in general consider Chaos today an army that needs a good general and then it can work, or is it a good standalone, let's call it toolkit that defends itself?
That's a tricky question. I would say that Chaos is definitely a challenging army right now. It's not an easy army to build, because even though there are quite a lot of options there, the list and the codex has some issues on its own, and one of my biggest issues with Chaos Space Marines is the troops. I mean, the troops are so bad in that codex that really having anything but single troops in patrol detachment, anything more than that is a really pain, because if we don't consider taking Death Guard or Chaos Demons, really having Chaos Cultists or Chaos Space Marines is, in my opinion, really bad. And not because these units are bad, it's just the proportion of their value to their cost is definitely not right in my opinion.
It's a point sink, basically.
I think so, yeah. Because I actually liked the Chaos Space Marines troops in the 8th edition, especially at the end when we had the unit of CSMs costing 55 points, I think, at some point. And I thought that it was quite a good price to take. They were not doing much, but they were quite okay to stand on the objective in cover. They will definitely were able to stand their ground. But
especially
now,
when Cultists lost the Legion trait, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I know the arguments. I think if Elt will be listening, he will definitely say that the cultists are not that bad. And somehow I can agree on that, because the new morale system is definitely helping the cultists. But on the other hand, having a 6-point infantry model that does nothing and it's just a lot of them, I'm just not that convinced, to be honest. Even if with all the buffs from the characters, I'm not sold on that idea.
Yeah,
And
I'm curious. Sorry, just to quickly comment. I'm curious, really curious. What was the reasoning for GW to increase the cost of the humble cultist and not increase the cost of, let's say, the guardsman or something like that? Either they have something in store for cultists and they will be amazing, or they will get awesome buffs, or I don't know, 2 wounds cultists maybe.
oh
No
no,
idea.
no, no, that won't happen for sure. This is a discussion between the Imperial Guards and Chaos players. What should be more expensive, and what if the cultists or the guardsmen are better or worse. That is, I think, quite a long-lasting discussion. But right now, I think that Games Workshop just doesn't want to see that many cultists, because we had during 8th edition there was quite a lot of time when the cultists were dominating the Chaos lists, and nobody picked Chaos Space Marines. So I think I don't see them planning anything special for them, unfortunately.
Okay.
There also isn't a cultist box other than 5 push fit guys that you can get. So coincidence? I think not.
Yeah, I think the majority of the cultists that you see today are still, most of them come from the Dark Vengeance box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think that
Quite
all
aged.
Yeah, I think all of mine are from there as well.
Yeah. All right. So, can you tell us something about your games? Who did you play? Were there, any tough matchups, or anything about the missions?
Well, I was actually lucky to play 3 different types of lists play against. During the first game, I played against Trainmaker, and he had quite an elite army with the Custodes, and supported by 4 assassins. So a lot of tough elite units there, tough characters as well to kill, and the assassins that are also quite a trouble there. And in this matchup, it turned out that having 3 Obliterators is really good against Custodes, even though they had quite a big save. I managed to kill almost every Custodes during turn number 1 with double shooting from Obliterators, and not having this big threat of the Custodes characters just worrying about assassins and while taking the objectives. I think that won me the game. So really, that was a test if this list is good against elite armies, and apparently it is.
Okay. So how many models were there in the Custodes army? Because they are pricey. So
They are.
How many did you need to shoot off the table?
Well, there was no bikers there. That was my surprise. And there was a 4 models of the unit troops. I don't remember how they called. There were 2 characters. The guy with the aura of -1 to hit, and a captain also on foot. There was a dreadnought, I think, from Custodes.
Or the Telemon?
I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it, I think. No more Custodes there.
Well, yeah, I understand that choice, especially that all the foot soldiers in that army have OPSEC, I guess. So it makes sense. But I also understand how they could get overwhelmed with obliterator shooting, because it is the bread and butter of the CSM army, and has been since 8th edition. So yeah,
it is. And another bit of strategy that I used there is to completely ignore the dreadnought. I knew that he is fighting quite well, and he can be a threat not only to the berserkers but also to oblitators as well. So I just pushed him back a little bit and charged him again and again with the rhinos, just to make him busy and not come to the rest of my army. And I think that's a quite nice strategy overall, if it's possible. Of course, it's not always the case. But if there is a big threat, big model, just try to ignore it.
Yeah. And especially that now Overwatch costs you CP,
Exactly.
So he probably wasn't that keen to shoot the rhinos.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, and so that was the first battle, and I managed to win this one. Next one was against a Horde army, and that was Elt, actually with the cultist spam. He had 50 cultists in total, so 1 unit of 30 and 2 units of 10. Apart from that, 2 Helldrakes and some support from the characters, and also 1 unit of Havocs. Sorry, 2 of them were with the last cannons and 2 of them with Reaper chain cannons. So a little bit of a mix. I understand why Elf chose that, to be prepared for both heavy units or big units, and for the Horde as well. So here I had some troubles with the objectives, because if I play against Horde, it's really hard for me to really take the objective, especially that I only have 1 troop unit, and Elf had quite a lot of cultists. So pushing him back from the objectives was my main goal there, besides killing the Helldrakes in the turn 1. But it was quite a struggle, and here I think I would definitely say that the MVP was the Khorne Berserkers, because their ability to just mow through the sea of cultists is definitely formidable there, and they definitely did their job. Although there were a couple of charges that failed, and I was really unhappy on turn one. The first unit of berserkers didn't make the charge to. Actually, sorry, that was a warp time that didn't land, and the berserkers only killed Master of Executions and not the entire blob of cultist units. So. And at the end, there was a really even draw. We had I think 41-41, so exactly the same number of points at the end. I think that I've been a little bit unlucky at the beginning. Elt as well had some bad lucks here and there, but it was really an even game, and I really liked it. A lot of tactical chess like decisions to make there at the center of battlefield.
Plus 2 players who know their each other's armies really well.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah. So tell me, because I already heard this opinion that at least for now, since it's the beginning of 9th edition, you can really say that every unit in the codex has potential to play. And I think Elf is a guy who embodies that, taking 2 Helldrakes to a tournament. Like I can't remember the last time I saw Helldrakes play competitively. And I think he took them primarily because those are just 2 models that can immediately get to his opponent's deployment zone and start scoring line breaker or something like that. So how did you, I mean, were they a threat to you, or did you do away with them quickly?
Well, they were a threat for sure, and that was my first goal on turn 1, to kill both of them, and I actually failed to do that. I only killed one. And the reason why I thought that it was really important, not only because of the line breaker that they were doing, but also I had 2 characters that I really wanted to protect, both Sorcerer and the Chaos Lord. And having these 2 big dragons at my back, and it's not that easy to shield the characters from every single side, and hearing about the Helldrakes being in my deployment, I had to take care of them rather quickly. Well, I had the damage rolls on Obliterators were not that great on turn 1, and that's the reason why one of them survived. But I think that this is the idea of Helldrake is quite nice. Maybe what was not good for Eld was that the tables were really small, and I think the Helldrakes really have a place in the chaos list, and they really, if the roster is built around them a little bit, I think they can do quite well, especially on big tables where they can just fly behind the enemy, not fearing about being shut down almost immediately. They can just lay low on the corner of the battlefield and then be still quite a big threat there.
Yeah, especially the flamers are not something that you can ignore. And I think, if a badly placed character or something like that, or if you just don't expect that to happen, suddenly having 2 Helldrakes in your backfield, flaming your character is definitely something that's going to hurt.
Yeah, most certainly. But I want to go back to your question, because I have actually a bone to pick with Games Workshop, because they nerfed my favorite unit to the ground, and I think that's one of the, if not the only unit in the Chaos Space Marines Codex that is really not viable at all, and that is the Warp Talons. I really like this unit at the end of 8th edition, and it was really great, and they just bumped the points so hard that it's really impossible to take them and to make them worth. So I'm really sad about it, but I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, it's really a shame what they did to them, especially as you said, not only it was the like points hike, but also I think one of the like shenanigans that you could do with them was correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they could like turn off Overwatch or something like that.
Well, they still can, and if
But the
they
Overwatch is not that big of a deal right now, I think.
well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, their ability to turn off the Overwatch is not that valuable right now as it was in the past. You're right.
Yeah, unless you're playing Tau.
Unless, yeah.
Right. Okay. And who was your third opponent, or what army?
Right. So that I don't remember the name. I think Łukasz was it?
Yeah,
and
it was. I played them as well, so.
Yeah, that was Łukasz, and that was Admec army. So a lot of shooting, and I was really afraid of this matchup, especially that the terrains during the tournament was not very big, and there was some flat surfaces here and there between the tables. So I was really afraid of, first of all, not going first, and then losing my entire army to the first turn shooting of Admec. Fortunately for me, there was a big ruin in my deployment, and I managed to hide almost everything during the turn 1. And then what I did is just my Obliterators appeared from behind the wall, and I really lucked out some good rolls on the damage and AP for their weapons, and they managed to kill both the unit of this what's it called, the little robots. There was 6 of them.
Not the
Destroyers.
Catalan ones, but the
Cataphrone
destroyers.
Yeah, exactly. So all of them were killed during the first shoot of Obliterators, and then the big chicken ones. What's the how they called?
Iron
Ballistari?
Strider Ballistari, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, or these ones. So they all died to the second salvo of the Obliterators.
Wow,
And I
that's
thought,
really efficient shooting, by the way.
yeah, exactly. And I thought, well, I think the game is over, right? I killed 2 main threats there, and I should be fine. But then on his turn 1, the Onager and the tank start shooting to my Obliterators because I stupidly didn't conceal them, and I lost, I think, 2 of them. And I thought, oh, that's not going well, especially that they were really hiding in the corner, and I knew that I had at least 2 turns to go there, especially that there were some riders, or the horsemen guys.
The cavalry, yeah.
Yeah, the cavalry, and they're really annoying, just blocking my movement and jumping around the battlefield. It was really hard to get to the tanks, but fortunately for me, I managed to survive until Berserkers and the Chaos Lord reached the tank and the Onager, and they managed to kill it. But I was really afraid after my opponent's first turn, even though I killed the almost entire threat of his army during my turn 1. So Admech, really strong shooting, apparently.
Yeah, that's actually something that also came to my attention at the beginning of 9th, that Admech now almost seems like they don't have a weak spot. Like every single unit that they have brings value to the entire army. The cavalry, as you said, like they can tie something up and run away from the fight 12 inches or something like that. All the robots that shoot like crazy, the Ballistari that have minuses, I think, to hit, and they're really resilient. All that creates an army that plays really well, and you can easily underestimate it because they look so fragile.
Yeah, that's true.
Awesome. Okay, Maybe just last word about your secondaries. Did you choose the same secondaries in every single game, or did they differ?
Well, yeah. So this army list definitely struggles with the secondaries. I tend to choose the quarters. What's it called? I don't remember the names, but you know the one that you have to be in every quarter of the battlefield. I think that's the easy one to do. Then I took the banners since I have some infantry units, and the third one it really depends. With AdMech, I took obviously killing the vehicles. With assassins, I don't recall. I think I had killing the characters.
So
I'm not sure.
assassinate, yeah.
I think so. And with Eld, don't remember as well. But no, I don't remember. But the third secondary is something that this army is definitely struggling with, and that's why I'm trying to get something a bit different for the next lists. I think, even though this list is quite good in my opinion, and can easily translate to 2,000 points as well.
Okay. So one question from me out of sheer curiosity. If you put those two shooty units that CSM have right now, so Obliterators and Havocs side by side, if you had to, I mean, you do have to choose between them, would you include both? Or would you rather take more Havocs or 2 units of Obliterators or none of that and something else?
Well, I really would like Havocs to work, but they don't. And I know that, for example, Elf will not agree with me, but there are some Havoc enthusiasts for sure. And I'm also really cheering for them to be working, but I tested them quite a lot, and they're just too fragile. They really die on anything, and their choice of weapons is also a different choice to make, because you have either last cannons and they're good, great against some tanks, some Imperial Knights, that's great, but if you come up against a Horde army, they're just useless. You might think that maybe taking then missile launchers would be good for them, but actually that's quite opposite in my opinion, because missile launchers with -2 AP, they're not really that great against heavy armored units, and for the Horde, they're okay, but not that great either. So I think, I mean, they're not that expensive, and in as a additional unit as a support, they might work. They just didn't work for me at all, and they were just dying from random things like a rhino exploding or a single smite killing 3 of them, and that's just a whole unit useless. They're just too fragile, in my opinion.
So is it, unless you take Alpha Legion with their shenanigans, like untargetable stuff and so on, you don't see any play? I mean, you don't see plays for Havocs.
Well, I don't want to say that there is no place for them. I can definitely see them work, and maybe, I don't know, having a unit of Havocs with the Reaper chain cannons that are hiding in a Rhino that just can jump out of it and kill a lot of stuff. It might work, definitely. I tend to just cut them off my rosters quite fast if I even consider them.
Which is a shame.
It is great models and great unit after all.
Yeah. All right. Conscious of time here, let's move on to the guy who took the 3rd place at the tournament. A big surprise to me, at least, because that's actually the 3rd Chaos player, and I expected him to bring Chaos. But Surprisingly,
Surprise.
yeah, like the surprise effect was there. So, Joker, you brought Necrons. What the hell, man? What happened? Why?
I did, and that's solely because I didn't have an idea for 1,000 points list of chaos. And look, it was the winning list was right there. It was sitting in my cupboard all the time, but it just somehow didn't occur to me. So, yeah, having the Indomitus box, I decided to consult one of our local overlords if there is anything I can come up with inside of that. Apparently there was. Just needed to borrow some warriors. And yeah, that was it. And that crit list came to be, and that's what I took.
So, what was it?
It was just a patrol detachment that included an overlord with Immortal Pride, the warlord trait that allowed me to ignore morale checks. Alongside him, as the second HQ choice, I had Orakan the Diviner, who's a souped-up cryptic, basically. Then 2 units of warriors, 20 and 19 men strong. 2 units of 3 Canoptek Scarabs, a unit of 3 Scorpec Destroyers, and a unit of 3 Heavy Destroyers. So yeah, that was it.
All right. So, I really need to ask this question because you had very little experience playing Necrons before. Maybe against them, but not them themselves. Is the army that strong right now, or are you just an amazing general?
Well, obviously, I'd like to
Or
say
both.
I'm an amazing general, but that would be a lie, and I'm no way would I call myself an expert on the game itself, let alone on Necrons, as that was my first outing with them. But well, you have to give it to them that they're just very resilient. A blob of warriors is sometimes tough to kill when you're playing 2,000 points. So on 1,000 points, it's well even more tricky, I'd say. And I just like to comment one thing here. I certainly mentioned before that when building a list, you need to look at the secondaries you can do with them. I also think that you need to kind of try to build a list in a way that you don't give away any secondaries out of the killing ones. And that's what my list was very good at. Because the only thing that would potentially make sense is to take that mission that I don't remember its name, Thin Their Ranks, I think, where you have to pretty much count up the number of models you kill and divide it by 10. And I didn't have that many models to give away 15 points for that, so I was very happy about that.
All right. So tell us about the games that you've played, maybe the opponents that you faced, the lists that you faced, and how did you fare? I mean, I don't really know, so tell because I haven't checked. So tell me, did you like have 3 wins, or
No,
was it
no,
a
I
struggle?
started out with a loss, and then I won the 2 games after that. I've actually played 2 of the same opponents that Asarnil played. I started out playing against Łukasz, the Admech guy. Yeah, so my confidence about Warriors being unkillable, well, that was thrashed at the very beginning of the tournament. So what happened was we got a table, we shook hands, we rolled off for deployment. I lost that. And after that, we rolled off who goes first, and I lost that as well. So I didn't really have anywhere to hide on that table, which was quite an issue going up against a very shooty army, very shooty. So yeah, I think I made a small mistake in deployment, but well, there's nothing changing that now. Either way, yeah, it was a real struggle going up. I mean, I was just trying to hold onto the objectives that were within my reach, slowly being killed. Also, I wasn't aware that the new Admech cavalry that they can run full 12 inches when you declare a charge against them. I was somehow convinced it was a random roll of 2d6. So yeah, the new Scorpec destroyers, well, being very nice models, they did nothing and just died miserably in that game. Yeah, and like I said, I think I made a mistake in the deployment by not hiding the heavy destroyers well enough. So that was pretty much the only thing that could handle the vehicles that he had. And well, I didn't lose the whole unit in turn one, but I lost two. And I think one came back in when it was my turn, so that was already inefficient, to be honest. And yeah, just didn't go too well that game overall. So as for the secondaries, I picked Domination, I think, which wasn't a great choice. Maybe Quartus would have been better. What else? Yeah, bring them down, obviously, for the vehicles. And I don't think. Oh yeah, and I took banners as well, because an infantry heavy list like that, I think it's quite an obvious choice. But I lost. I only scored 31 points to his 52, I think, something like that. And after that, my second game was with a Death Guard list commanded by Elf's Son. So that list had 2 units of 5 Blight Lord Terminators. It had 2 units of Plague Marines, 2 Demon Princes, and single unit of Cultists. For the secondaries, there I picked Domination again. There was a relatively easy for me mission secondary that was the aim of which was to have as many units as possible still alive at the end of the battle. So I managed to max that out, and the Warriors really held their line in that game. None of the units of warriors were destroyed, so yeah, the resiliency was definitely there at that time. And I mentioned Domination, I mentioned the mission one, and yeah, banners again. So that game I managed to get first turn. But in all honesty, I think that my opponent played a little passively, which allowed me to just run to the objectives real fast with the Scarabs and start scoring both Domination and maxing out Primary in Battle Round 2, 3, and then 4. So yeah, that was the win. And in the last game, I played Elf, and again, this time around, I got to choose sides. I got to go first as well, though I don't think that was that relevant, as it was a pretty even matchup either way. But I did manage to win that game, also picking the mission secondary that was you need to perform actions in each table quarter to get 15 points. And if you didn't manage to get all of them, then the amount of points you scored was smaller. Domination and banners.
So
Or banners, or maybe I took bring them down for those Helldrakes. Yeah, I think I might have that. No, I can't remember that right now, to be honest.
So you said that you took domination in at least 2 of the games that you've played, which sounds a bit ballsy, to be honest. So were you confident?
That's how I roll.
No, but were you confident that it is going to be easy to actually do that with Necrons?
Honestly, no. Although I thought it would be easier in the first game against Admech, where you really just had a castle-like list, but there weren't that many objectives on the table, and they were set up in a way that each of us had 2 for most of the game time, so that backfired, and I didn't manage to score many points on that. But in the latter games, there were more objectives or outside of deployment zones, and I had quick units of scarabs that would allow me to grab them early on, and then have opponents focus fire on those trashy units instead of the warriors, perhaps. And other than that, I mean, I can line them up quite wide despite the new coherency rules. I also had the Veil of Darkness, so if needed, I could teleport one unit from one table end to another. And that was that. And I had a lot of troops models with objectives secured. I had infantry on all of the units almost, well, apart from the scarabs. So yeah, I think that was quite a good choice.
Yep, so it seems after all it gave you the third place, so there must be something in it. So congrats on that, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Right. Taking all that into consideration, will you stick to your Necrons? And will you, buy more models or borrow more models to have a 2,000 point list? Or was it a one-time adventure and you're back to Chaos now?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I'll see when the codex drops. I mean, I'd really like to run like a full destroyer cult list, because I just like models that pack a punch and can be fairly resilient at the same time. Although apparently that's not a game we play anymore. But playing this warrior spam, to be honest, was pretty boring. I mean, I'm just rolling saves, and after that, I'm just rolling reanimation protocols, and like 5 times in a single battle. It's not very exciting, and there isn't much killing in that list. By that I mean I don't do much killing either. So yeah, it felt pretty boring. So I'm not sure if I'm going to stick to it.
Right.
Apparently, if I may. Apparently, if you expand this into 2,000 points, you get some extra characters with some extra shenanigans where you teleport units to one another and so on, and you buff the units of warriors so you can up their toughness or ballistic skill. So maybe there is some potential of, fun and strategy, but yeah, I've yet to explore that, and I don't want to invest before the codex drops because
obviously, yeah. So last question I wanted to ask about that, because normally when you play your Chaos version, there is a lot from the Thousand Suns. So I remember playing a lot against you in 8th, where you had like a bazillion spells to cast and all the tricks that the codex brought. With Necrons, if you choose Necrons, you pretty much deny yourself that. You take away the entire psychic phase. Were you missing that when you played the Necrons?
Honestly, no, because the thing with the psychic phase is that it might also go bad, and if none of the powers go off, you can be in a really bad situation.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't miss it that much. I mean, obviously it's a nice element to have, but I think, and the way that the game is constructed now is just a bit too uncertain to rely on at times, and you're also giving away 15 points quite a lot of the time to the open for Abhor the Witch. So that's something that I'm conscious of, and one of the reasons I'm kind of struggling to come up with a list of Thousand Suns that I would like and feel confident about.
Yeah, Abhor the Witch is absolutely atrocious. So I know exactly what you mean. A question that I wanted to ask both of you is, since you delve deep into Chaos and you know more about it than I do, where do you think does Chaos stand today? Do they really desperately need a new codex, or can it fare well? because if you look at what happened in our local meta, I think we had Vladi, the member of the Polish national team. He came to Gdynia at the beginning of August and took second place with his Chaos list. Then he went to Kozłów and won it in the team tournament alongside with Orcs and Guard, I think. Now we have two Chaos players in the top 3 of this tournament we've just had. So is it just Chaos players complaining a lot, or is this army in a bad spot?
That's an interesting question. I think we have to take Vladi aside and not really consider him in terms of if the army he plays is good or bad. I think that's just a matter of a player. But besides that, I would say that Chaos in general is in quite a good spot. It's definitely not a top tier. I would say a tier 2 maybe with if a general is quite good and quite experienced, especially I think experience is quite a key for Chaos to really understand the synergies between the units and their weaknesses especially. I think it can do well, and especially now I think demons will be a little bit maybe even stronger than Chaos Space Marines. Because of the new secondaries, I think they have some really good units that can take care of objectives and also quite good units to stand on the objectives and not get killed. So I would say that it's strong, but definitely not overpowered.
All right. Can they put up a fight against Space Marines now?
Well, we have to see. I think it's really too soon to tell. We definitely need to wait until the Space Marine Codex comes out, and I hope that Games Workshop will not again make a mistake of creating new Iron Hands, with Salamanders being a strong candidate for that, apparently. But it definitely feels that the codexes from Chaos are weaker and they struggle against Space Marines, but it's not unwinnable in my opinion.
And I mean, you don't see that many Marine lists now, maybe apart from those Salamanders. Or if you see Marine lists, they are those Salamanders, which are strong. I'm not saying that they're not. But like Tiffus said last week, it's a bit of a different game now where you need to take objectives, and Chaos can do that quite well, I think. And yeah, I partly agree with our friend Asarnil here that Chaos is in quite a good spot, I think, especially Chaos Space Marines. They have quite a bit of tooling that they can take to the battlefield. I think Death Guards also has quite a bit of potential in the resilience and the buffs they got in the War of the Spider, I think, book it was called. But I would say that the Chaos Demons Codex really needs a rework, because with the new army composition rules, Chaos Demons, well, it's hard to take multiple detachments, and Chaos really liked souping up in 8th. And if you are not taking multiple detachments in Chaos Demons, you are then depriving yourself of any passive buffs that you might have. They weren't that strong in the beginning, and they relied on having characters giving auras to other units. But yeah, you're denying yourself even that if you take a detachment of mixed demons, which compared to aforementioned Space Marines, where they have heaps of passive buffs, it's just a bit sad, in my opinion.
Well, I actually disagree with you, Joker, on that
Okay.
one.
Fair enough.
I think that the new composition actually is beneficial for Chaos Demons, because I think they have almost the best troops in the game, and so they can easily fill up the battalion with the troops, with Nurglings and with Blackbeaters, Bloodletters, even Pink Horrors. I'm really considering a list based on Pink Horrors. And I know what you mean with not having the locus from pure list, but in my opinion, the locus is not really that
Yeah, exactly.
important.
They weren't strong in the first place, but
Yeah.
that's my point. You have just the data sheets to rely on. There isn't anything hidden that you get just for being a demon's army.
That's true. That's true. And if we consider also that in Psychic Awakening, the demons didn't get that much, only the greater demons and some stratagems here and there, it's a little bit of a shame. But I think that the new editions rules, especially in terms of the objectives, this is something that the demons can shine on. And I'm actually preparing quite an interesting list I want to test maybe in the next tournament in in Free City that is purely a demon list. So
Yeah, please include me in your little chaos discussions so that I don't have to take Necrons again.
Yeah, you guys
Sure,
get a
will do.
room. You really like seriously too much chaos. So yeah, listen, we are getting close to finishing the episode. So there is really one more question that I want to ask, and then we can wrap it up, I guess. New edition, you know, new rules, new missions, new terrain, everything is new. I would also say new editions usually attract new players with all the new box sets and all that. We know how it went in 8th. Many people started playing because just the box was good and good value for money. So to all those players, I mean old and new, but mainly new, being experienced, having won tournaments in the past, placing well now, what piece of advice would you give to the new players entering the scene?
You mean competitively, right?
Yeah, of course.
I think practice, practice, practice. I mean, that's the experience in this game is really, really crucial because since the games takes so long, we don't have that many opportunities to gain experience. So playing a lot and playing to the end of the game, even if you're losing horribly, you know, learning to really play until the end of the last turn and trying to get even singular points here and there. I think that's important, and really just play and play and play, and if that's possible, obviously.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's the most important thing, and just go out there, go to a local tournament, try yourself, and don't be shy. Obviously, one needs to be aware that you might lose your first couple of games, but that's just how it goes. I mean, there's a lot to take in. So if you can live with that, then that's really the first step is behind you. And perhaps in terms of list building, it's definitely worth to look at what the missions are now and how you can play towards them, being that the primary objectives and the secondary objectives, like Asarnil and myself have mentioned when we went over lists.
Okay. One piece of advice that I can give is familiarize with the rules, or get familiar with the rules. First of all, your own rules, because there are so many rules in every single army that are easily forgettable, like but could save your life. Like I don't know, the humble rhino healing a wound every round. That's something that I keep on forgetting just because I haven't played many rhinos in the past. I haven't played many transport at all in 8th edition. Now in ninth, I see that rhinos are absolutely necessary for my Grey Knights, and and I see like they are MVPs of the game many a time because not only they just provide safe transport, but they sit on objectives. People tend to underestimate them and that like don't invest all of their shooting to kill a rhino because they just assume it's very easy to pop open a rhino, but apparently it's not. They move block, so they're absolutely great, but I just never remember to heal them. So try to remember the rules and learn, memorize, read your codex at least, I don't know, 5, 6 times, because you will always find something new and something surprising. That's one. And two, especially for the new players, make sure you read and understand the missions as well. Like the first 3 games I think that I played with, in ninth edition, I didn't score the missions that I took because I didn't read them properly. So I thought Linebreaker is just about having 1 unit in the enemy's deployment zone. When I took what is it, engage on all fronts, I wasn't sure if I need to have all 4 or just 3 and what the points for that were. So really make sure that you read it, that you understand it, and choose the right missions. So yeah, that would be the piece of advice from me. And yeah, I think that's it. Any last words, guys? Anything that we missed or that you want to
Yeah.
add?
Don't
Your
you want
list.
to be interviewed?
Yeah, sure. I mean, of course, I always want to be interviewed.
I mean, even conscious of time, if someone doesn't want to listen about Grey Knights, they'll just turn it off
Yeah,
by now.
that's true. That's true.
So,
yeah.
Tweak, what did you take to the tournament?
So obviously, I took Grey Knights, which is a brand new army for me because I only started playing them at the end of 8th, and now in ninth, learning all the rules after COVID break with all the new rules of the edition and so on. It's a challenge, but yeah, I went to the tournament with them just to practice and to test some units. So the list was, you don't really get to choose much from in that codex, but I took Voldus, of course, just because I love him. I love the model, and I love the fact that he can have 4 powers and cast 3, and with a CP you can even cast 4, which is mind blowing because he is better at casting than, I don't know, Eldrad or any of the greater demons. I also took a Libby because I think Librarian is very good with Sanctic Shard, which is the relic to reroll, to have +1 to cast and deny, and to reroll psychic tests. So yeah, I took a Libby as well. Then I had 2 units of strike squads, 10-man and 5-man. The 10-man with the intention of either dropping from deep strike and just shooting 40 shots that you can boost up to strength 6, AP1, damage 2 with the right tide and the right stratagems, which is great. And this unit also gives you this sort of flexibility that because you can break it up into 2 and just have more troops on the table. And these went in 2 rhinos if I wanted, and I mentioned rhinos already. So again, great bit of flexibility and a great unit overall. I also had a venerable dreadnought because I just wanted to have some anti-tank. So the dread sported a twin last cannon and a missile launcher. And I also had something that I really wanted to test, which was Purgation Squad. So I had 4 silencers.
Silencers.
Yeah. Okay. So I had 4 silencers just to get some anti-infantry shooting as well. Overall I felt that this was an all-rounder, so it should have fared well against all sorts of armies. And the first army that I played was Vitalis with his Necrons. So I was afraid of that because I really didn't know what the new Necrons did. And he had this new Lord, this big one. I don't remember the names. Don't kill me, but I will never remember them. But he had that Lord. He had a Cryptek. He had, I think, 2 blobs of warriors, scarabs, 3 wraiths, and a monolith. And I think I was lucky because he decided to put the monolith in deep strike, which probably bit him in the ass a little bit because I just zoned him out and he wasn't able to drop that monolith in any meaningful spot on those small tables for I think 3 turns or maybe 2. So the sad part about that was that the game was very even though the monolith was not on the table. So he played literally 700 points against 1,000 points of Grey Knights, and he was doing fairly well. And I think it was pretty much a draw because I won like 52 to 51 points, which in the scoring system of that tournament gave me a win. But it was very much a draw, and it was only a draw because Vitalis had atrocious rolls. But he really took it well, and he's like an awesome guy. So we had fun. His lore didn't do anything meaningful in that game. So I could see on his face that he is like dying inside, but on the outside he was smiling all the time. So yeah, I hope if you come to 3 City, you get to play him because he's amazing. But it was a very tiny win. Then the second game was very humbling because I played Blood Angels, so I played Capi, who I think Asarnil played as well. No, sorry, Bania played him.
Bania played him.
Yeah, so the Terminator is Sanguinary Guard and the Land Raider. The game was very humbling because I felt overconfident, and he really misplaced his Sanguinary Guard at the very beginning. I started the game, I shot them off the table, then I gated behind his lines, I shot his character, and I charged the Land Raider, and I managed to charge it so it couldn't shoot. So at the same time I was doing the missions, and I felt like I'm in a really, really good spot. But then the Terminators came on the table. I wasn't able to shift them the way I wanted, and I was really counting on my smites, the boosted smites, to be able to do away with them. And at the time when I wanted to use, warp shaping to change the tides to smiting, his Libby blocked the spell, and I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't cast strong smites, and I couldn't kill his Terminators, and my shooting wasn't enough. So basically, for the rest of the game, I think for the last 3 or 2 turns, he was just slowly wiping me off the table. So I lost this game like 70 to 50 something. As I said, it was really humbling because at the beginning I was sure I had it in my pocket, and then it turned out that the Cappy told me that his only strategy is like go forward and kill. And it worked really well because I just underestimated him. So that's another piece of advice: never underestimate your opponents because you never know. And then the last game I played was against Death Guard. So I played Marcin. So his Death Guard was really cool because he had like all the units that used to play at the beginning of 8, like Boxwalkers. I think 2 or 3 units even. You can now put them underground or something like that, and they appear on the table. He had a demon prince with 4-up Feel No Pain, which was a real pain in the ass because I just couldn't kill that guy. He had some Plague Marines and he had the drone, I think, and that was pretty much it. So overall, a matchup that I didn't really have great trouble against because the drone is a demon, the demon prince is a demon, so I could wipe them easily with smites that do 4 mortal wounds, I think. Plus the shooting, it did the job. But as I said, the demon prince, I dropped the 10-man strike squad next to him. I smited for 4 mortal wounds. He 3 of them just bounced off of him because of that Feel No Pain. Then I shot 40 shots at him with the strike squad, and I left him on 3 wounds, I think. And then I charged him with that strike squad, and with wound rerolls and so on, I still didn't kill him. So, I mean, come on, that's ridiculous.
Death Guard.
Yeah, that's Death Guard for you, exactly. So it was a fun game. I can't remember the exact score, but It was, again, something like 70 to 50 or something like that. And it was just pure fun and joy. I think more for me than for Martin, but still. I didn't speak about the secondaries. That was kind of on purpose because I can do it now in all three games. I took the same secondaries that I think work well. So it was, what's the name of that? Deploy scramblers. So basically, you need to perform an action in three different parts of the table. And with Grey Knights, it's just fairly easy to do. Although it saddens me every single time when I drop a unit of, a strike squad that costs 100 points in the enemy's deployment zone to do nothing. Really, that 100 points hurts. But on the other hand, it's just an easy mission to do. Then I took While We Stand, We Fight. So 3 of your most expensive models need to survive. So Voldus, Dreadnought, and Libby were the 3 models. And apart from the second game, when the Blood Angels wiped me off the table, in all the other games, they survived and gave me stable 15 points. And then the third one was, I think, Engage on all fronts, or I think one of those. So again, with an army that has Edict Imperator, which means you can shoot and move, so it gives you extra movement, and then with Gate of Infinity and Deep Strike, you are very mobile, and enemies can underestimate that. So those missions made sense. So I took 4th place with that, and I was really happy with that. But again, the one conclusion that I took from it was never underestimate your enemies, because Cappy played an awesome game and he deserved that win. And I had a hangover after that game because I really didn't think it would finish or end like that. So that was my tournament.
And what do you think of your list? Would you change anything? And do you think it's an alright foundation for a 2K list?
So I took the Purgation Squad to test it, and I really think this unit has a place in a 2K list. I actually had an opportunity to test that yesterday during a game against Death Guard, and I took 2 Purgation Squads, one with silencers and the other one with side cannons, both with Astral Aim, and I took Drago and a Chaplain with them as well. Drago obviously for the rerolls, and the Chaplain because he knows 2 litanies, one that changes the range from 24 to 30 on both of those squads. I mean, on one of them, but he can apply that to any of them. And the second litany is adding extra AP. And since Grey Knights don't really have high AP shooting, any investment into AP will pay off. And I could see that yesterday. So one unit that shoots on force, but still with Edict Imperator because it moves with heavy weapons, but shoots and hides. And the second one that can shoot through a wall if Astral Aim goes off. And with all the rerolls from Drago, that's really something that your enemies cannot ignore. So I think they will stay in the list for a longer while. On the other hand, I decided to resign from the Venerable Dreadnought because it just doesn't impress me with that shooting. I mean, twin last cannons and the missile launcher, even though you can shoot that through the wall again with Astral Aim, it just fails me most of the time, or it either doesn't do the damage, or it doesn't wound properly, or something like that. So I'm just generally disappointed with that unit. So that's going away. And and the rest of the list, I really like the flexibility that the strike squads give me. And as I also said, the 2 rhinos I think are a must, because as you rightfully said earlier, you really need the ability to take up the mid board really quickly. And the rhinos help you do that. If they get blown off the table, the strike squad just jump out and still hold the objective, which is really important. But I even found myself running an empty rhino yesterday, just holding a faraway objective objective, and it gave me points as well. So a really awesome unit I also underestimated, but now it seems that it's going to be there in every list that I play.
Quick question, if I may. You said that you took deploy scramblers for all 3 games. Isn't it a 10 points secondary?
I can't remember. How many points it
It is 10.
Yeah.
So I'm curious because I think when I wrote when I read the description of this secondary, I immediately disregarded it because I thought, well, 10 points, I will never get 15, so that's not really worth my try. But now that I read it, I think it's quite an easy one to go with. And so, in your opinion, you think that taking an easier objective, but giving you a little bit less of points, is it worth it?
So I think that the players that I speak with usually focus on 2 things when building their lists. First one is to build a list that doesn't really give away many secondaries,
Mhm.
and then at the same time building a list that doesn't allow or simply that denies your opponent doing secondaries. So I always assume that with one of the secondaries that I'm going to pick, it's going to be difficult to complete it, and I'm not going to get max points anyway. With this one, if I take it, it's really easy to get the maximum points because your opponent will not sit in his deployment all the time. That's just not how the game plays. So you will, with Gate of Infinity or Deep Strike, you will always find a place to drop a unit and even hide it, and then it's not really a problem to take the middle and do that again, and then in your deployment zone again, and you only you played for 5 turns, you need 3 to score that mission, and then it's off your head. It just seems simple to do with this army, but again, I consider this one the one that I would be probably changing depending on who I play. So if I meet an opponent that, I don't know, sports 3 knights or something, I will probably drop this one and go for Titanic. Slay the Titanic model or something like that. It's not a must, but it's a good option that will always deliver on the points that it offers.
That's an interesting one. I definitely have to think about it to maybe reconsider the secondary, because it really seems. And what I found out during the testing and during the tournament is that I really rarely do a lot of points from secondaries, and I really struggle to get at least a couple of points for some of them. And maybe taking this one instead of the banners will help me get some points for the third secondary. I really like this idea. So I guess thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I tried banners myself as well, and I just don't like banners because I don't really have a lot of troops in my army composition, because I usually either take just 1 battalion with 3 or obligatory troops, or 2 patrols, and then 2 or mostly 3 strike squads. Yeah, so it's not really a lot of OPSEC that I have, and with banners, it really heavily relies on OPSEC, because if you, at least that's what I think, because when you put up a banner, the banner stays there until your opponent comes and takes control of the objective.
Yeah.
Taking control meaning has OPSEC and is actually controlling it. So I don't have enough troops to guarantee that I will be able to hold that objective and that banner. That's why I just don't pick it, because if you look at the lists that even came to that tournament, right? If I got to play, I don't know, Elf with his cultists and cultist spam, I would probably have a hard time doing banners. So I would not pick him. That's why.
That's exactly what happened to me. I took banners with Elf, and I don't think I get a single point out of it. maybe a single or 2, but yeah.
Yeah, so it's really that I really tend to analyze my opponent's army composition, and if I see that he has more OPSEC than I do, especially mobile OPSEC or something that can like easily jump between objectives and just put up those banners, and then also probably won't have a problem holding them, yeah, I won't go for that objective. Right, guys. Thank you for interviewing me. That's actually a nice, change. I just really wanted to thank you for, that openness and really great banter. And Asarnil, especially thanks for, coming to the tournament in Gdynia and driving all that distance, even though you said that it's not a big deal. I really think, for the majority of players, probably that would be a big deal. So that's even more appreciated.
Come on, they came and won. There's no need to thank them.
True, but again, it was really nice because I came like one of the first people to the tournament, and when I saw them, I was like, what the hell? Last people I would expect. So at least thanks for that.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It was really a pleasure to talk about Warhammer 40k with you, and I really hope that you succeed with the podcast. I think that's a great idea. Hopefully it will be picked up not only by our local people, but also the West.
Cheers, man. Fingers crossed that it works.
Yeah, cheers.
And thank you all. Tune in, subscribe, like us on YouTube. We will try to get on Spotify as well at some point, but that's the song of the future. For now, stick to us on YouTube. We will publish the podcast every Saturday. Yeah, we look forward to your comments on YouTube. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Until next time.
Yep, thanks. Bye-bye.
Cheers.